I've made alternate builds from a variety of LEGO themes, like Star Wars, Marvel, DC, and even Creator. But throughout all my years, there's been one incredibly popular LEGO theme that I've consistently shied away from. Until now. Today, I'm taking a step out of my comfort zone and going into a theme that you all know and love, Ninjago. And for our first Ninjago alternate build, we're going to go ahead and start small and play it safe with Lloyd's Race Car Evo. But rest assured, even though we're starting small with the Race Car Evo, I do have some plans for some of these bigger Ninjago sets in the future. But today we're just going to focus on Lloyd and his little race car. But despite this being a Ninjago set, it seems the majority of us on the channel happen to be Star Wars fans or some sci-fi spaceship fans, so I'm going to try. But I still want this alternate build to retain some sort of Ninjago identity and feel, so I'm going to try my best to retain that feel and try and make my best use out of some of these golden pieces and then this larger flag in the back. And with that idea in my head, I got to building, and I gotta admit the building process was a pretty large struggle in the beginning. I got a little worried that I wasn't going to be able to succeed at all and that maybe I should just lay down this Ninjago set and stick to my roots. But I couldn't go down that easily. This is my first Ninjago build, and if I fail at doing this, I may as well pack up shop and close down the channel. But luckily, after a little bit of brainstorming and quite a few procrastination posts up on my Instagram story, I managed to come up with Lloyd's Stealth Airspeeder. And the name is still a work in progress, but we'll cover that at the end of the video. For now, let's take a closer look at what I did to this Airspeeder, starting up at the front. And looking at this front bumper, you can see I made use of as many stickered pieces as possible. I try not to exclude stickers when they're in my alternate builds. I figure if the set has them, I may as well use them for a little bit of extra detail. And you can see a sticker on almost every slope piece up on the front here, minus this orange slope going right down the middle. And speaking of the middle, as you can see, we have that orange slope piece that we pointed out, but then on either side of that, we actually have two headlights that can be posed a little bit and rotated. But you do have to be careful with that connection. To make space for that orange slope piece in the middle, they have to sit ever so slightly off that bar piece. But they stay on there just enough for play so you can pose your lights up and down. Moving on from the lights though, we actually have some more folding down play features in the form of these two cannons on the front here. Now, I'm not too up to date on Ninjago lore, so I'm not sure if blasters like this would be lore breaking to have on a ninja's vehicle, but this is that little bit of Star Wars that I mixed in there and having that little bit of spaceship love. And these are made just using this small little clip piece mounted on these katanas that are on the bottom of the bumpers. And then besides that, we just have a little bit of sticker detailing on the edge of these slope pieces here. And then on either side of the Airspeeder, you can see I have these little bumper guards that are repurposed from the little bad guy vehicle from the original set. I'm not sure what these guys are called, but unfortunately, their little card just had to get scrapped to make the alternate build better. But these just act as some extra armor plating on either side of the speeder, as well as giving it a little bit of an aggressive look with these wings coming off either side. And before we move back into the middle and the inside of the vehicle, we're going to go ahead and cover these little wheel side pods that I built. And these wheels on either side aren't meant to be engines, because that would be quite a lot of engine for a very little ship, but they are meant to be the equivalent of like repulsor lifts. So while these wheels don't actually propel the vehicle, they are what allows it to float off the ground while the main engine in the back propels it forward. But both sides still do spin freely, and even if you set the speeder down, you can actually move it side to side with these wheels. Now, it's not really meant to do that in universe, but I suppose you can have your speeder land and then you can move it into the perfect parking spot by moving it left or right. But now that we took a quick look at these repulsor lifts on either side, let's go ahead and realign down the middle of the ship and we can take a look at the cockpit and everything around it. And in this cockpit area, we went ahead and built it up and protected it on either side using plenty of slow pieces and some cheese wedges at the top here. And on top of these two little holdout blasters that we had at the front of the speeder, we also have two extra stud shooters on either side of the cockpit for a little bit of extra firepower. And before we take off the windscreen and dive inside, let's go ahead and finish up around the cockpit and take a look at this backside where we have a small engine built up. And here, using that larger engine piece from the original set, I decided to make a little bit of engine greebling right above the main exhaust that we'll cover later. But I just wanted to have some sort of exposed engine look, similar to the original hood of the Evo car, how we had that engine piece sticking out with the two stud shooters. I wanted to have something equivalent of that, like some engine sticking out of the front of a hot rod, so I went ahead and slapped that engine piece on the back side of the cockpit here. And then on either side of this engine piece, we just have these two little clipped bits that fold down to help fill out this back space of the cockpit windscreen, and then emulate some sort of tiny windshield in the back here. But with that covered, we can go ahead and flip around to the front side and get the windscreen off, and we can take a look inside the cockpit. And we of course have Lloyd as our pilot, but let's go ahead and get him out of there so we can get a better look at everything that I did inside. And on the inside here, you can see we used those tan jumpers and that slow piece at the back to give him a nice comfy backrest. And then I filled it out with a little bit of gold detail on either side there. And then on the front side there, we have the main controls for the speeder with that control panel piece printed in the middle with two translucent studs on either side. But that pretty much covers the entire cockpit, so let's go ahead and get that windscreen back on there, and then we can move on to the rear side of the speeder and this main engine. And as you guys saw, we of course have that main engine right down the middle of this speeder right here, which lines up with that little bit of detail that we saw poking out of the backside of the cockpit. But we do have that main engine slash exhaust just sitting in the middle there with that cylindrical gold piece and then a flame sitting out the back of it. And then on either side of the exhaust, I went ahead and put these larger blade pieces because I think it gave it a real aggressive look and it covered the engine exhaust pretty well. And then you can just barely see on either side of that main engine that I do have two orange translucent studs in there. So I guess you could call those secondary or tertiary engines, but I just tossed those on there for a little bit of extra detail. And then of course, like any Ninjago vehicle, I had to toss some extra katanas on the backside, and I think it really completes that aggressive look that these larger blades establish in the middle. But besides the katanas on either side, we just have miscellaneous tiles and slope pieces to help build it up and give it a nice armored shape on the back, and then we of course have this folded over flag. Now I'm still pretty new to Ninjago, so I'm not really sure what this flag means, but I figured it was a pretty important build, so I better keep it together and try and work it into my alternate build if possible. And I was able to do just that, so that this entire flag assembly just attaches on this small bar here, and then if you don't like it or you want it out of the way, it can fold down almost flush with the entire speeder. But with this little bit on the flag, I think that pretty much covers the entirety of Lloyd's stealth airspeeder. And like I said in the beginning, the name is still a work in progress, and I want your help deciding on what it should be. So leave a comment down below on what you think this airspeeder should be called, and then me and Lloyd will go through and pick out the most liked comment in 1 week and we'll pin it on this video, and that'll be the official name of this alternate build. But I hope you guys enjoyed this alternate build. As always, if you want to build one for yourself, I have PDF building instructions available on my Patreon page right now, and then I'll have a video version published in a little under 2 weeks. But other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you have any other suggestions for any other alternate builds or mods that you'd like me to do, go ahead and leave them down in the comments below, and it can be from any theme. It could be Star Wars, Marvel, Ninjago, City, Monkey Kid, you name it, I'm going to try and make it work. So make sure you leave your suggestions down in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace, fellas.